Is your labor law someone that explains it? I think that'd be important. I talked about it there, and let me see. Let me see if I can search this up. But obviously, if you are a contractor, right? If you're a contractor, you're receiving stuff like social benefits, right? And that's one of the things that is a key distinction there, right? So let me just put it right here. So let me show this thing here. So this is many of you look this up. I'm going to just get this extra information here. This is a little bit of extra information from a law firm. So what is an employment contract? An employment contract involves a worker being engaged by an employer to carry out work. If you fall under the definition of worker, that i.e. employee, right, you will be entitled to the Labor Standards and Labor Contracts Act. If you have an independent contractor agreement, it's not strictly defined under Japanese law, and it's wide in scope. It typically involves a sole proprietor carrying out specific work in exchange for money paid by the party. The key differences is, unlike in employment contracts, independent contractor agreements do not involve superior subordinate relationships and are often entered into between workers, Rorasha, and employers, Shiosha. But rather between two independent businesses. In other words, if you're entered into an independent contractor agreement, you're not a worker for the purposes of Japanese labor law, and you will not be entitled to the various protections and rights provided for in the Labor Standards Act or the Labor Contracts Act. So your protections are much smaller if you are falling under those provisions, right? How do you determine it? Well, what if I sign an agreement entitled independent contractor? Just because the document is entitled that does not mean you are not entitled to the rights of a worker. Whether you are a worker does not depend on the formalities of the contract or whether key elements of an employment relationship exist. Guys, how do I know this stuff? How do I know this stuff? Your mindset senpai here knows this law, right? I told you guys. In other words, no matter what the title is, if it is recognized that an employer relationship exists between yourself and one party, you will be a worker for the labor laws and entitled to the rights. Here we go. Let's read the factors. And if these factors exist, then Doki is an employee. Let's read the factors together, okay? Factor number 1. There is no freedom to accept or reject work requests, nor the instructions for how such work is to be completed. So, was Doki being told how to do her work? Yes. Was she given instructions? Yes. And yes. Oh, someone got, are you a lawyer? Indeed. There's a significant amount of supervision and control over the work to be completed. Yes. She was being managed. She had a manager. There are restrictions on the place of work and the hours to be worked. Well, I think they limited the amount that she could stream or whatever. So I think there were some limits on her work hours. Now, this one I'm not sure of. Remember, she doesn't have to meet every factor, just the majority of them. But I think there were limits, right? Guys, are there limits? The restriction for days? Clearly, definitely. Clearly, oh, big yes. So, okay, so she meets this one. Wages are paid. This provides remuneration being paid not as a result of the work, but rather for the fact the employee was employed for the period or paid in wages calculated on an hourly or a daily basis. I would argue that her wages were paid based on a quota system or a stream quota, which is similar to an hourly wage or a per task or a daily wage, right? So I would say that's kind of more similar to a worker wage than a contractor wage would be for the end of a project, right? And also there's no end in sight. It was open-ended, right? Machinery, equipment, and the like that are being used to carry out the work are provided at the expense of the company. Who paid for her machinery and equipment? Who paid for her equipment? What was them? They paid for her basic equipment, right? Did they not pay for that? That makes it a factor in favor of her being a worker, right? The basic streaming equipment was paid by Nijisanji, wasn't it? Or she did? Oh, they don't pay. They don't. I thought they paid for something. I'm talking about basic equipment. They give some. So let's pretend this one is split. So, okay, let's pretend that they split this one. Let's just pretend, right? Yeah, they give her the model, right? The model is what she needs to do the work, right? A 3D model is what you need to do the work. So that, because they pay for the model, that weighs in favor of her being a worker. One more time. Because they pay for the 2D model, that weighs in favor. Also, someone said they may pay for an iPhone. That would definitely weigh in favor. Work, iPhone, and model. That is definitely weighing in favor of her being an employee. Okay, next. The level of the wage is the same as that of a regular employee. Well, I don't know what the regular employees are paid because they're all in the same arrangement. So this one is kind of nothing burger. Priority or exclusion of the role above other work, stating you can only complete work for the company. Ladies and gentlemen, was she free to work for another VTubing company? Could she work for HoloLive? Could she work for the Fishman? Could she work for anybody else? Nope. So because it's exclusive, that is a massive sign that she is a worker. Employment or internal rules and policies and other documents that prescribe workplace conduct. Ladies and gentlemen, they had very strict factors for workplace rules and conduct. In fact, she was fired because she violated workplace rules and conduct. So therefore, they absolutely had this, once again, a factor in favor of her, in favor of Doki. Income tax. Now, I don't know about the income tax. Now, I imagine that how she is paid is the money is collected by Nijisanji, and they deduct the taxes and pay her out the rest. I assume that's how they're doing it. I don't know, though. I don't know. We don't know, and this one's a question mark. So I'm going to put a question mark on this one, which is it. And then the last is being eligible for severance and retirement and benefits. Don't know about this one either. So we've gotten a question mark on one or two of them, but all of the rest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 out of 10 are a clear yes. 8 out of 10 of the factors for whether she is an employee or an independent contractor are met. She is a worker under Japanese law.